Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 1. Now let's start the fanfic. His excitement was palpable. Some may say it is wrong to be excited about this, what is to be the greatest test of his life, but he was. It has been a long road, fraught with challenges and mistakes, but if he can accomplish his life's goal here, it'd be worth it. He'd finally be free to start living, to focus on something other than her. What made it all the sweeter was that he was going to do this with the support of his best friend, the person following closely behind him. Oi, Dobi, remember our deal? Sasuke said as they made their way down the corridor to the main hall. I'm aware, Tem. She's yours unless you get in over your head, Naruto said while rolling his eyes. The two share no more words as they head toward what promises to be the most difficult confrontation either of them have had since they fought each other at the Valley of the End. Sasuke would be thankful for the rest of his days that his friend managed to defeat him that day. He wasn't immediately and said every hateful thing he could think of to the blonde while in Anbu lockup. He cursed his very existence, even after the blonde pleaded with the Hokage to grant him a measure of leniency. It was well after Naruto left for his training trip that Sasuke managed to become thankful to his friend, and he was grateful Naruto forgave him instantly upon his return. Team 7 was back and better than ever. Konoha intelligence had received word that the Akatsuki killed Orochimaru and that Itachi and Kisame were seen in a part of Fire Country near an abandoned Uchiha hideout. Sasuke requested the mission to apprehend her and Kisame. He had to admit he was surprised when the mission was cleared. The squad left an hour later with Naruto receiving a hug from Hinata as they departed. He thought it weird at the time, not knowing those two were together. When they arrived at the hideout, Kakashi and Sakura elected to take on Kisame so Naruto and he could advance. While Kisame said it was supposed to be a private meeting between siblings, even he knew he wasn't going to beat Kakashi, Sakura and Naruto by himself. The duo wasted little time passing him by, Sasuke moving a little quicker, unable to hide his anticipation. The pair arrived to see Itachi sitting upon a throne, which Naruto helpfully classified as boss bitch status. After an exchange of words, Sasuke and Itachi engage each other in a fever-pitched battle. Shuriken Jutsu countered Shuriken Jutsu, Kaden Jutsu countered Kaden Jutsu. Sasuke even managed to reverse one of Itachi's genjutsu. The young Avenger was doing well against the Uchiha prodigy, but both knew they would be escalating their fight. Naruto was content to remain on standby, actually keeping his eyes closed and allowing his sensor ability to relay any pertinent information about the exchanges between the two combatants. As the two were really starting to take things to the next level, Naruto felt a troubling chakra fluctuation and without second thought he acted. The two Sharingan users were surprised to see the blonde blur emerge between them, Sasuke more than Itachi as he watched his best friend sink the second knuckle of his index finger into Sasuke's chest, before rotating it and ending with a palm strike. The blow immediately caused Sasuke's heart to go into arrhythmia. Itachi, still shocked by Naruto's actions, didn't have time to react to the shadow clone that placed a paralysis seal on her. Naruto made another clone to attend to Sasuke and keep the boy from dying as he attended to his target. Without wasting a moment or a movement, Naruto and his initial shadow clone placed Itachi on a prepared sealing array. The two then started to blur through a series of hand signs. It is only because her Sharingan were still active that Itachi knew it was 140 seals performed flawlessly. Before she could start to break down what the extensive sealing chain could do, she was engulfed in a golden glow as the sealing array started to move up her body before concentrating on her neck. It took less than 3 minutes for the process to complete, and when it was done, Itachi had a seal on her neck, near her left collarbone in the shape of an Uzumaki spiral. The Nuke Nin was beyond confused. First, her foolish little brother's friend attacked him and incapacitated her. He then went through some complex sealing procedure, but instead of hurting, she felt better than she had in years. She could no longer control her curiosity. Naruto-kun, what did you do to me? She asked. In short, I healed you. Why? Don't ask questions you already know the answer to. Naruto shot back, clearly annoyed with the Uchiha. Taking note of his tone, Itachi relents and asks a different question: how? Ba-chan's creation rebirth mixed with a non-evil version of Orochimaru's curse mark. Given the potency and composition of my chakra, it is ideal for radical healing. It took a lot of clones a lot of hours to come up with that, so I hope you appreciate it. You know I don't. This was not a matter for you to interfere. And why, if this was a one-time usage, do I still feel your seal at work? I regret getting you that beginner's book on seals. Ignoring her initial comments, Naruto answers her, if your condition was degenerative, which I suspect it was, reversing the damage doesn't cure the condition. The seal will continue to fight off whatever it is that brought you this close to death. It should even work the same for your eyes. Is this the part where I thank you because I feel anything but gratitude? I needed to die here. Sasuke was going to bring honor back to our clan. Yay. Can't have the world knowing they were going to stage a coup. How? Danzo. I had to torture him for 2 weeks to get the full story. You just snapping or testing your limits or whatever other bullshit tale you and the crones were spinning never made sense to me. I didn't buy it for a minute. You were always more clever than people realized. Itachi said. Are you going to tell Sasuke? Undo all I sacrificed for? No, Itachi. I won't tell your precious little brother. He's been dedicating himself to a lie. Naruto said, unable to hide the annoyance in his voice. Then what, Naruto? What's next on your master plan? Did you think you'd save me and I'd jump into your arms? You're an even greater fool than Sasuke, as if that's the case. Itachi spat. You've asked that more than once now. No, Itachi. I don't expect anything of nor from you. Trust me, I know exactly who you are. You're alive, that's enough for me. No, you don't know me, Naruto-kun. I was just a guard that was nice to you, nothing more, replied Itachi, and noticed Naruto flinch but hold off a response. To think, all this trouble because I took pity on some lonely orphan. Completely ruining my plans over a misplaced crush. Sentimental idiot. Believe what you want, Itachi. Naruto said, finishing checking his seal. It doesn't matter, you're alive, so I've accomplished my goal. If Sasuke doesn't kill you for this, I will. I won't allow this insult to pass, Naruto. You aren't going to kill me. I'm too valuable to Konoha. Not if Akatsuki gets you. I seem to incapacitate you easy enough. Sasori and those zombie assholes would all likely disagree with you as well. I'm a lot of things, weak isn't one of them. I disagree. You're the weakest kind of person, ruled by your emotions to the point of egoism. At least it saved Sasuke. I've clearly failed, my seal has made you stupid, Itachi-chan. Do you think all I've done to save your brother was because of some deep abiding friendship? Please. I wanted nothing to do with the psycho, except I know you'd want him to be somewhat stable, and I was never going to allow him to kill you. Even if it's what I want. Yes, find a better way to deal with the guilt. Like what? Drinking like Tsunade or perversion like Jiraiya? Maybe I'll do both and send you the pictures. Would you enjoy that, Naruto? Watching your precious Itachi-chan taking it in every hole by a group of men and none of them are you. You could be my little cuckold. How'd you like that? Itachi spat, uncharacteristically emotional. Do what you wish, Itachi. It's your life. You pick an excellent time to realize that. I was so close, Naruto. So close to atoning, to being at peace and free of all of this. You shouldn't have taken that away from me. Maybe, maybe not. Too late to worry about it now. I'll just try again, Naruto. You've only delayed things and you can't always be around Sasuke. Once again, maybe not. But if you're dead, I no longer have reason not to kill Sasuke, and as good as you are, I have more access to him than you do. Allowing Sasuke to kill you assures his death. You live and I'll protect him, even from himself. You assume my loyalty to Konoha is such that I won't kill you to protect Sasuke. That, and you don't want to kill me. You still overvalue my pity. Itachi, look at me. Naruto said, pausing until she made eye contact. I know. I knew each and every time, so why are you pretending? Naruto said as he watched Itachi's eyes light up in recognition. Clever boy, indeed. How did you know? You didn't break my genjutsu. Genjutsu is said to disrupt chakra flow, but chakra flow is like a river. Instead of fighting your invasion, I just moved my chakra in a way in which I wouldn't break the illusion but still be conscious of the artifice. The guises you picked didn't help, some might even call them spiteful. Spiteful. As in, how dare you look at any woman that's not me? Idiot. So, that the first time you looked like Haku, the second a Tsunade with a smaller bust and the next a Shizune wasn't intentional. Yes, intentional. Figured you'd be easier to manipulate if they were to resemble existing preferences. You think I have a thing for bachan? A woman I call bachan? You sick foo. Stop your posturing, Naruto. Besides, given the results of the evening, why are we debating this? Because that's pervy, Dadbeo. Itachi couldn't help but snicker. Seeing a break in the blonde's cool disposition made her want to press the advantage. I noticed you only mentioned the first three. I'm surprised the last one didn't work. Who wouldn't want a guilt-free night with their own superfan? Even geniuses can be wrong. Naruto said. But why, I wonder. The star-cross enemy Kunoichi was okay. The mother and sister figures didn't give you pause. The shy heiress, however, that was the line. What? Felt too guilty that you didn't return her feelings. Something like that. Naruto replied, sadly. Surely you can provide more details than that. I may not be the best at social cues, but even I, eventually, realized she had feelings for me. I asked her and she said yes. I then had to request she move on from me. As great as she was, I didn't think I could truly return her feelings, not completely. That I was once saved from my personal hell by someone and couldn't move past them, to my obvious detriment. Maybe I'll pay her a visit then. Show her what we got up to. Maybe let her know the only one he rejected was her lookalike. What do you think, Naruto-kun? That should really help her self-esteem. Do what you want, Itachi. That's it. No declarations about protecting your precious people. Hinata isn't weak. Your little game wouldn't be as harmful as you think. Besides, I doubt someone stoic to the point of emotional impairedness, outside of an unhealthy obsession with her brother, would bother to do such a thing just to hurt me. Anyway, the paralysis seal will go inactive in about 10 minutes, which should give your body enough time to adjust. Try to take it easy for a few days. Naruto said as he walked over to collect an unconscious Sasuke. Before he reached the exit to the room, Itachi spoke. You will honestly protect him. It's a promise of a lifetime. Naruto said before retreating away from the hall. If he had stayed, he would have seen the smile gracing Itachi's face. As Naruto emerged from the exit, he saw a beaten and battered Kakashi and a nearing exhaustion Sakura seemingly at a stalemate with Kisame, though he didn't look all that bad. Naruto had to suppress the urge to roll his eyes while wondering if he could convince the Akatsuki to stop collecting the Biju just so he could join. It'd be nice to work with competent shinobi more often than he did. Kisame saw the blonde exit the hideout with the lesser Uchiha in tow and grew concerned. Not bothering to continue the fight, he dashed toward his partner. The Konoha nin took the opportunity to return to the village. Kisame found Itachi looking no worse for wear and was confused as to what happened, at least momentarily. After that moment, he cackled loudly. His laughter echoed throughout the building and he didn't stop until Itachi was finally able to move as she tried to shut him up with a Kaden jutsu. Why are you being so mean, Itachi? Because you're being obnoxious. Maybe I am, but it isn't every day you prove Itachi Uchiha wrong, he said with a great deal of mirth. How could you possibly know? You're fine. The whelp looked fine and Loverboy sure as shit was fine. Just admit it and be prepared to pay up. I'm thinking sushi and a lot of it. I told you your boyfriend was going to intervene. Shouldn't never threw that nasty at him. Got the boy all open. Kisame said, smiling the entire time. Shut up, Kisame. Not until you admit it. Fine. Naruto-kun delayed Sasuke's and my duel. It's only a temporary setback. I'm sure. Samahata said your chakra feels whole, again. Were you healed with the power of love, Itachi? I'll kill you and that sword both if you don't watch it, she said, glaring at the larger shinobi. Man, I should have convinced your boyfriend to stay longer. You were always much nicer after you spent the night with him. I sincerely hate you, Kisame. I love you too, partner. He sensed her the moment she walked into the bar and thanked his training, the extent to which she was suppressing her signature. She could have gotten past his abilities before Jiraiya and he left on their trip. It was difficult to manage the sense of excitement coursing through his body, as if hit with a surplus of new energy that needed to be used, expressed. Instead, he stayed where he was, nursing his drink. He couldn't even remember what it was. The barkeep had recommended it, but it was little more than a distraction. Naruto had to admit that for an out-of-the-way place, it was decorated quite nicely. Not too bright, nor too dark. Plenty of private tables, even the bar has an impeccable wood finish. It was as he was trying to distract himself with the design of the bar that he felt her chakra invade his system. He had to fight his natural impulse to reject the intrusion, his curiosity outweighing sound decision-making, so instead he concentrated on the flow of his chakra, making sure the foreign presence wouldn't be disrupted but couldn't fully take hold. From one point of his body to the next, he felt his chakra flow increase slightly above its natural resting state. She took the seat beside him and greeted him with a smile. It momentarily threw him off, how much she looked like an older Haku, if the kimono and the hair bun are similar. He'd compliment her on her sources if it wouldn't ruin the game. The two make small talk, nursing their drinks. Naruto says his name is Hiru and claims to be a writer. Itachi says her name is Miko and is in talent acquisition. Eventually the drinks start being consumed a little faster, the lies become a little closer to the truth. He finds the back and forth exhilarating while simultaneously damning its necessity. They talk the night away until Miko states she has to turn in for the night, then requests if Hiru would mind walking her back to her room, for safety. He hesitates for only a moment, liquor and hope overriding initial concerns of a delayed setup, but he extends his sensory range just to be sure. He may be a little too drunk to fight, but he isn't too drunk to flee. The walk back to her inn was mostly quiet, with her arms wrapped around his. There is a part of him, a part he rarely indulges, that laments that this can't be a regular occurrence, wishing his life wasn't so antithetical to normalcy. He dutifully escorts her to her room, fully expecting this to be it until he hears her say, "Would you like to come in?" Most of him screamed, no. Not just his shinobi instincts but the little part of self-awareness his drunken mind has held onto realizes if this goes where he thinks it could, that would be utterly embarrassing. He doesn't know what to do with a woman. Well, he has some idea thanks to Jiraiya, but he'd be entirely too nervous to even remotely pull that stuff off. This is Itachi. Despite what people say, your first time shouldn't be with the one you love. That's like your first shinobi battle being with a freaking cage. You got to get some experience under your belt, perfect your moves. While much of Naruto was slipping into an uncharacteristic bout of crippling insecurity, another part of him spoke up. You got this. That voice that let him stare down Zabuza, that let him beat Gaara and challenge Tsunade. Oh, confident Naruto was in the building. And he seemed to be supercharged by the liquor in his system because he was sounding extra smooth and commanding tonight, like it wanted to sell him some Colt 45 in Cloud City Smooth. Just take it slow and let the night goes where it goes. Besides, this won't be the first time you tussled with an S-rank kunoichi. He listened to that voice. Naruto gave a response, one he still isn't sure about, but it was in the affirmative and he'd hope it was cool. Itachi wasted no time once the door was shut, kissing him aggressively and he returning her gesture with equal fervor. It escalated from there. Naruto's unnatural belief in himself, high stamina and undesired lectures from Jiraiya making up for his lack of experience. Even while wrapped up in their activities, he couldn't help note the bittersweetness of it all. How he longed to see her face and hear her real voice, to not have to do this behind a hastily crafted fiction. Was it really too much to ask that he be granted a moment of happiness with no strings attached? He supposed it was since it never happened, every benefit came with a cost. Hearing her moan and the feel of her breath on his neck sent a chill down his spine, the rest of it was almost too much to even comprehend. They fell asleep in each other's arms, both silently thankful for the moment they got to share. She was gone by morning with no trace she had been there the night previous. In the quiet of the morning, Naruto was able to think. In the past, thoughts of the short time Itachi was in his life warmed his heart, and while he missed her terribly, he was always able to fill that hole with wishing she was well or hoping she was safe. Also, his focus on becoming a respectable and skilled shinobi as was her example gave him a sense of connection to her. The embers of longing were quenched by these activities. Childish wants and desires are easily sated. But now, Naruto was becoming a man, grappling with maturing impulses and desires. What were once mere embers had now sparked into a flame. Not all-consuming, not unmanageable, but also not easily tended to. It was this that allowed him to speak something he had never previously allowed himself to think, a simple 3 words he had dutifully avoided with all the discipline he could muster. I want her. He said it quietly but with absolute conviction. The spoke desire instantly became something more. No longer would it suffice to hope she's okay, that was too passive. Passivity is for children, and he no longer had the luxury to be a child. Immediately plans, goals, obstacles and schemes started spinning in his head. He knew getting her away from the Akatsuki and proving her innocence would be inordinately difficult, but it needed to be done. Naruto took a shower before exiting the inn, the entire time feeling lighter despite the tasks placed before him. He was sitting across from the Hokage. It had been a week since they returned from that botched mission to kill Itachi and had been given some time off as it was technically an S-rank mission, though it didn't pay like it, he mused. He didn't know why he was here, but given Tsunade's smug look and Jiraiya hiding in the corner, it couldn't be anything too bad, but also in no way would it be good. Tsunade began looking at a file on her desk before she spoke, deciding to read aloud. Special Junin Uzumaki Naruto. Specializes in Fuinjutsu but demonstrated proficiency in Tai and Ninjutsu as well. Junin has been subject to observation from Inoichi Yamanaka since age 5, mind healer to be cautious of any warning signs of mental distress or deterioration due to isolation and discrimination. Besides hyperactivity and attention-seeking, Inoichi reported no issues until age of 7. Subject had been uncharacteristically tired, unmotivated and preferred to stay in his apartment. Symptoms lasted for 3 weeks before a slight but noticeable change. Change continued throughout time at the academy. After avoiding the depressive state, subject began to do better in school, eventually becoming the 5th-ranked student in his class by the age of 9, where he held that position for the duration. Inoichi notes that due to the prejudice of the village and instructors, subject was not treated as if he were a high-achieving student. Subject eventually demonstrated a stunning, for his age, proficiency for seals, but true level was never determined. At age 11, subject blackmailed Sandaime Hokage for the shadow clone jutsu by promising to not look into the seal subject, recently discovered on abdomen. Inoichi speculates subject has known of the seal a great deal longer but kept the information secret until it was useful. Demonstrates ability to be manipulative beyond what his age would suggest. After receiving genin rank, subject placed on Team 7 by request, violating the established top students and dead last tradition, however, allowing others to assume he was the dead last. Misconception not helped by subject's bright personality and general lightheartedness when not on assignment. Inoichi argued against team placement for that reason and one other. While subtle to most, subject shows clear disdain for Uchiha Sasuke. Source of the animosity was and still unknown, but forcing the two to work together would only increase the effects. Further observation by Inoichi concluded that while the animosity never decreased, subject had taken to manipulating the Uchiha by playing to his ego and constantly downplaying the subject's, own skills and contributions. By time of Chunin exams, subject showed hidden hostility toward Uchiha Sasuke and Junin sensei Hitaki Kakashi. Inoichi speculates subject finds Hitaki to be a subpar sensei that is stunting the team's growth. An argument with more weight after Hitaki-san was the deciding factor in denying the subject his promotion to Chunin even though he was not there to view the subject's match, a factor forgotten by the promotion panel until after the promotions had been finalized. She stopped quoting to look at Naruto. It goes on, Naruto. Inoichi can't decide if you're a flight risk, a potential double agent or what, but what he is certain of is that no one really knows you. He hasn't ever been able to zero in on the source of your change, your intense dislike of the Uchiha, even given all outward evidence you view him as a friend and other concerning issues, but after this mission I think I figured it and subsequently you out. I'm so confident I'm going to play a game. Question for a question. No lies, no half-truths, no bullshit. The blonde Hokage said. You've always been straight with me in the past, so I trust you'd keep to trend. Who starts? Naruto asked. You. Who are my parents? Naruto questioned, testing her resolve. Tsunade doesn't pause before she answers. Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki, second Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. Well, shit, Naruto said and adopted an impassive look on his face. My turn. Did that mission really happen the way you said it did? No. Why is Jiraiya hiding in the corner? Curiosity and safety precaution. He, too, was concerned you weren't upfront with him even after 3 years together. Do you know what happened to Danzo Shimura? Yes. Do you really believe I can replace you one day? Absolutely. Do you know of his connection to the Uchiha massacre? Yes. Who was the first container? My grandmother. It's been something of a family affair. Why did you pump Sakura for information on my creation rebirth? Fuinjutsu project. All pass. Was it successful? By all appearances, but only time will tell. Why did you take Sakura as an apprentice? For you. She said and savored the look of surprise on Naruto's face. Where is Danzo now? I honestly have no way of knowing that. Did you know my parents? Not well. Kushina and I never got the chance to get close due to the war and my leaving the village. It's one of the things I'm not proud of, given she was Mito's legacy just as much as I was. I really didn't know Minato at all. How good are you at Fuinjutsu really? Better than Jiraiya, though I was approaching his level when we met. Once he agreed to train me, I held off so I could see how he thought in case he ever slapped a seal on me. High-level seals are as much about the creator's voice, so to speak, as it is about theory, and given the only active Sanin liked to play the perverted fool, I wasn't sure how much I could trust him. Wait. That's why you've been cagey with me, said Jiraiya, now revealing himself. Yes. I cared for the old man deeply, but once I realized he was hiding things from me, I felt no need to be 100% honest with him. You pretended to want nothing to do with me only to turn around and have me sign the Toad contract. I'm blonde, not dumb. Figured if you weren't going to be straight with me, then I'm under no obligation to be straight with you. Why aren't you asking me what you really want to ask me, Ba-chan? Because I find it amusing. So, how long have you been in love with Itachi? In love? I don't know. Loved. Since she saved me. Naruto answered and was greeted with a smile from Tsunade, but not one born of smugness but of sad understanding. How did you figure it out? Mostly from what was missing from Inoichi's report. Someone as outgoing as you, and yet it made no mention of a crush or love interest. It makes sense for the Uchiha, he's bent all wrong, but you. I didn't buy that for a second, not with how fast you take to people. Finding out who was in your Anbu detail and who could have hidden interaction from Sensei, and the list was narrowed down pretty fast. I'm guessing she broke protocol and started to interact with you. Yes. And you never believed the official story about the Uchiha massacre? No. Why? Because someone who kills their entire clan on a whim likely wouldn't bother coming to say goodbye to one of their missions. She spoke to you? Asked Tsunade, surprised. No. She thought I was asleep. I thought I half dreamed it for the longest time. So, she just came to say goodbye and left. Tsunade asked and say a slight pink to Naruto's cheeks. Basically. The teen said, hoping to move off this topic. Basically. Both Sanin asked. Naruto's hopes dashed. She said bye and kissed me on the cheek, okay. He rushed out. Tsunade would think it cute if Itachi hadn't just committed mass murder but pushed on regardless. Have you had any contact with Itachi outside of your mission to retrieve me, Gaara's rescue and this most recent mission? Yes. When? During the training trip, she approached me hanged, supported by Genjutsu. That's not possible, Naruto, why didn't you tell me? You could have been at risk. Jiraiya said, stunned by the admission. It was a private matter and if she had wanted to capture me she would have brought that walking chakra beacon. She didn't. She wasn't even armed. How could you possibly know that? Asked Tsunade. Shit. Observation. Naruto replied with zero confidence. Naruto, what aren't you telling us? Jiraiya asked, getting increasingly worried. Can we just drop it? We know she's not a traitor, she didn't hurt me. Isn't that enough? No, because you are desperate to avoid this topic. Naruto, what aren't you telling us? We spent the night together. Naruto said, avoiding all eye contact. As in, spent the night together. Jiraiya asked, wanting to still be mad at the boy but also feeling the overwhelming need to start his latest ichi. You banged Itachi. Ew. Don't say bang ba-chan. Matter of fact, for all intents and purposes I will not discuss my life with you. This is weird and wrong and you're a ba-chan so you shouldn't even know about let alone mention it to virgin ears. But you aren't a virgin, idiot. Tsunade said, sporting a tick mark. My ears don't know that. Stop trying to mentally scar me Arrow-bachan. Jiraiya could only facepalm as he watched the weird ritual between the two. It's like if they didn't have at least one argument every time they spoke the interaction would be lacking. It just didn't get it. Don't you call me that, Arrow Gaki. I'm not the one sleeping with S-rank missing Nin. Did you at least hold off long enough for her to properly seduce you or did she just tap you on the shoulder and you were ready to go? For your information, queen of all perversion, it was beautiful and intimate each time. Shit. What do you mean, each time? You allowed this to happen more than once. Was part of your training how to make decisions with your. Don't say, Arrow Granny. I'm too young to hear you say words like that. You keep up and I'm going to have to become a monk to purify myself. Shut it, Gaki. Don't change the topic, which is you screwing someone out to kill you. But she wasn't. You didn't know that. I strongly suspected. Jiraiya, this is your fault. How was he alone long enough, often enough to carry out an affair? Spy network. Naruto offered. Yes, that's it. I call shenanigans but let's stay focused. Naruto, what were you thinking? I don't know. That for a few moments we could be something else, something approaching normal not too marked people. That I could be happy even for just a bit. Naruto said with pure defeat in his tone. Both Sanin's eyes soften at the boy, no young man, that often has the weight of the world on his shoulders. And neither take joy in what they know they have to do. Jiraiya managed to steel himself first and spoke. Naruto, you know there's no future there. Best case scenario is Itachi extracts herself from the Akatsuki and goes into hiding. She wouldn't be welcomed back to the village. I'm aware it's unlikely. No, Naruto, not unlikely. Impossible. It won't happen. It can't happen, Jiraiya said, firmly and watched his apprentice slump. Normally, Naruto wasn't one to accept something as impossible but he didn't offer up a word of protest. However his body language shouted his defiance. Jiraiya often bemoaned Naruto was too much like his mother but truthfully he was just as much like Minato and damn it that wasn't a constant pain in the he could try to talk Naruto out of whatever he has planned but Jiraiya doubted it would work. He could only hope his attempts to exonerate Itachi doesn't lead to more pain for all involved. The shinobi lifestyle takes from all who are a part of it but it doesn't take equally. If the world were fair, someone as good as Naruto and loyal as Itachi could be with their heart's desire but the world is rarely fair and just. One last thing, Naruto, How did you get Danzo to talk and where did you see him last? He sent one of his agents to test me a few weeks ago. I beat the ink using clown and then followed him back to one of Danzo's lairs or whatever. Sat down to talk to the guy and then he launches into some bullshit self-justifying speech of how his was the one true way and I should join him. Of course I declined, but while he was talking I noticed some weird chakra signatures in his right arm and eye. From being around Sasuke I knew they were Sharingan and assumed he'd have knowledge. Foolishly he left himself unguarded, so I snatched him. You kidnapped the darkness of shinobi. Yay. Seals are wonderful things. Anyway, I stashed him in the Uzumaki mask storage temple, which I've fixed up so you should come by Ba-chan. Eventually he told me how he ordered Itachi to kill the Uchiha behind Gigi's back and how he stole Shisui Uchiha's eye and tried to use it on me. Luckily, I sealed my eyesight before I met him so it didn't work. He then bit his tongue and bled out, but I have his confession recorded. There is so much of that story that is just, why did you know to seal your eyesight? Asked Tsunade. I do it when I want to push my sensory abilities to their limit. I had my eyes sealed for the last 6 months of the training trip and Pervy Sage didn't even know. The hell you did? That's impossible, replied Jiraiya. I have them sealed now and neither of you knew, but I can see just as well without it. Most sensor nin are lazy, honestly. I basically can chakra sonar map anywhere I want and the picture in my mind is just lacking all the colors my eyes pick up. Okay, we're going to have you detail about that later. Hand in the recording and then go join your team, Naruto. Tsunade said and watched as the blonde obeyed. After he left she turned toward Jiraiya. This isn't good. He doesn't for a second believe he can't bring Itachi back. I know. We can't have him focused on this, not with his life at risk. Well, what do you suggest, Tsunade? I've had an easier time changing your mind. The kid will tell us what we want to hear and just work around us if need be. Damn it. Why couldn't he find a nice girl who wasn't an overly loyal prodigy? Oh, and 5 years his senior. If she does come back I'm going to wring her neck for taking advantage of Naruto. Yay. That poor Naruto, getting to be with the woman he loves. Oh, the horrors. Shut it, perv. On to other matters. Are you dead set on infiltrating AIM? Yes. We need the intelligence. Fine, I'll assign you a team. No, it'll be easier if I go alone. The blonde Hokage could only sigh. Jiraiya, be careful and if things get too dangerous then get out of there. You are still needed here. Jiraiya gave a hearty laugh before replying, I knew you loved me, he said as he leapt out the window. When it started, she couldn't say. She would deny it was when she served as his guard. While she had a fondness for the boy it didn't go beyond that, though a great deal of fondness was there. At first, outside of just being a mission, she couldn't help but see her little brother in Naruto and it was hard to imagine Sasuke feeling that lonely and isolated, so she violated protocol. In her short time with Naruto, she realized he was different from Sasuke and she liked it. Due to her father's actions, Sasuke was increasingly seeing her as someone to surpass. The seeds of jealousy and resentment were being planted without a care for what it would produce. Her distancing herself from him and the rest of the clan hadn't helped. Naruto, however, was inspired by her. He didn't want to surpass her. He didn't want to become a better version of her, just the best version of himself. It was touching and flattering and she was sad to see that connection end as she performed her duty to the village. There were times she wondered why she didn't ask Naruto to look after Sasuke. She knows he would have. There likely wasn't much she could ask him to do that he'd flatly refuse, but she didn't take advantage of it. Maybe it was the desire to have something purely for herself. She had wounded Sasuke deeply but had already made peace with the reality that he'd one day kill her and hopefully find resolution in his vengeance. How much more could she give him? How much more did she want to? Whatever the reason, she decided against it, only giving the blonde a short goodbye. The Akatsuki had managed to get some details on him and Itachi kept track of his progress, being continually pleased with his growth. Once he graduated and started taking proper missions, she was further impressed that her little blonde was becoming something of a shinobi hero. He even managed to stop Sasuke from betraying himself in the village. All were actions worthy of respect, but none could justify why she sought him out in that bar the first time. It certainly wasn't a plan, but felt stronger than a mere whim. She didn't know and still doesn't. That only makes her current situation all the more confusing, because if she didn't understand doing this the first time, she certainly can't explain doing it again. While she found Naruto a compelling conversationalist, it wasn't enough to justify this, but all the same, she had no intention of turning back. Luna, she decided to name her guys, approached Naruto with a natural elegance as the path toward him was cleared. She'd been watching him, and while several young women had attempted to get his attention, it hadn't gone beyond polite small talk. Taking a seat beside him, she could tell her henge immediately caught his eye. It didn't take long for Luna, the freelance journalist, to strike up a conversation with Natsu, the artist. Much like the first time, Itachi enjoyed the easy rapport between the two as they talked about everything and nothing, including just enough truth to make the lies easier. Just like the first time, it didn't take much to get him back to her room. He may not be aware of it. She'd be extremely skeptical if he did, but Naruto had this ability to make you feel like the only person in the room when you had his attention. It was invigorated but also intense and seemed to heighten their current activities. She noted he wasn't as hesitant or nervous this time, a little more assertive as well. The small contented smile he wore as he slept was so endearing she couldn't help but match it. He was the one to vacate the room before morning this time, leaving silently enough that had she been someone else, he'd have left without being noticed. After a second occurrence, she could no longer afford to have her motivations go unknown to her. Simple attraction, she wondered. He was certainly growing into his looks, but wasn't so devastatingly handsome as to make her swoon, not that any man could. Reconnecting with a severed bond. Possibly. He truly was one of the few people she was close to before she left, and the only one she fully let her guard down for. Maybe, and if the fates were kind, they could have possibly been something, but her health was deteriorating. She only had a few more years left and was committed to dying by Sasuke's hand. She didn't have a future and tried hard not to think about what one could look like. A nice quiet life of a typical Konoha Junin was not in the cards for her, her services to the village robbing her of that chance. She'll never get to have a family of her own, maybe a little girl with her features and his coloring. One just as much a source of warmth and happiness as her father. A little girl encouraged to feel and grow and love however she chose. One that could risk it all, suffer 100 heartbreaks and still never lose her smile. Itachi quickly wiped away the tears that fell down her cheeks and berated herself for her flight of fantasy. There was no future for her. She killed her family and broke her precious little brother. All that was left to her was winding down the clock until she could atone and hopefully find a measure of peace in the Pure Land. Seeing it was still early, Itachi decided to get some more sleep, her dreams dominated by a pair of sunshine blondes that continually made her heartache. Where are you going to go now? I don't have a clue, but nowhere would be safe for long. Zetsu is good at finding whatever interests him. Return to the village, we can clear things up, said Jiraiya. No, I have no place in the village, not anymore, replied Itachi as she finished tending to arm that had been severed at the elbow. She heard the fight between the sage and Pain and appeared near its conclusion, not being able to watch his Mas, a fellow Konoha shinobi, die. She incinerated Pain's bodies in a burst of black fire and immediately retreated with Jiraiya, only stopping to provide enough medical treatment to save his life. Now the pair were headed back to Konoha while Itachi was trying to make a plan to disappear until she could think of a way to neutralize the rest of the Akatsuki. The kid would be over the moon, you know. Even still, I cannot. Sasuke would attempt to attack me on sight and Naruto would attack him in retaliation while I'd try to prevent Naruto from attacking Sasuke. It'd be a mess, to put it mildly. Hey, so it would. There'd also be the Tsunade factor to consider. What does Tsunade-sama have to do with this? She thinks you seduced her grandson, son, little brother figure and wants to wring your neck. They have a weird dynamic. So, she knows. I knew they were close but I'm surprised he divulged, replied Itachi. He didn't so much divulge as confirm. Tsunade did some checking into his history, added up 2 and 7 to get 5. It just so happens she was right. And how do you feel about this? However I feel, I'm tired, beat and missing an arm, so I can't exactly threaten my savior. But you know this won't end well. Everyone involved does. Everyone but the one with a malevolent mass of chakra that preys on his negative emotions. He thinks he can force a different outcome through will alone. Then this will be a good lesson for him. Some things cannot change. Hi, an excellent lesson. But what happens when in his rage and despair he decides to burn the world around him? He wouldn't do that, replied Itachi. Why wouldn't he? Naruto comes off as light personified, and honestly, I don't believe it's an act, but he subdued, captured and tortured the ing darkness of shinobi because he thought the man might have information on you. What else might he do behind you? He has you, Tsunade and his team. He even has that little heiress of his. Tsunade and I are both old and high-profile targets. We could live another 30 years or be dead today, like you know, what was going to happen to me. He doesn't like his team. Well, he likes the pink-haired one, but even she tries his patience half the time. The heiress. Jealous much. Get nearly killed by a former student much. Deflect from the topic of conversation much. Use an outdated rhetorical device that you're much too old for much. Touché. I try. And no, I'm not jealous of the little stalker, why would I be? Except she's all wrong for Naruto. That's not jealous, it's just a fact. Sure. Itachi-chan, sure. Anyway, she'd support him, but it's asymmetrical and they both know it. Naruto wouldn't truly lean on her. He'd feel too guilty taking advantage like that. Jiraiya, what do you want me to do? In terms of Naruto, nothing. But I do have a mission for you. Orochimaru's second, Kabuto. We've been keeping light tabs on him. The Akatsuki will likely be too busy to do a dedicated search for you, at least for a month. You think you could see to him? Sure. Anything else? No, but there is somewhere I know you can hide out once you deal with Kabuto. Send a crow my way and I'll give you the information once you're done. Can you make it the rest of the way? Yay. Shouldn't be an issue. The beating Tsunade will give me for coming back like this. Not prepared for that. Might be able to leverage a sympathy handjob though. I didn't need to know that, Jiraiya. Jiraiya was, to both his credit and detriment, a very curious person. No one becomes a spy, let alone a mastery spy, by not taking a keen interest in various topics, so when his annoying, training-obsessed apprentice decided the two needed to be apart for the day, Jiraiya had to know why. The kid had done well to give him the slip, but talent doesn't beat experience, and soon enough Jiraiya found his charge. To his shock, he saw the teenager with a, apparently, slightly older woman. One that, interestingly enough, looked a lot like Shizune. Jiraiya idly wondered if Naruto secretly harbored an interest in Tsunade's own apprentice. It would also explain his utter disinterest in all other women until he could find one that looked close enough to his heart's desire. God knows he had done that in his youth, and there weren't exactly a lot of women running around that looked like the Senju princess. He respected his apprentice's privacy and went about his own activities for the day, expecting to see Naruto later that evening. It was the next morning before Naruto returned, and Jiraiya had a blast mocking his student. Naruto refused to give any details, likely assuming it would curtail Jiraiya's remarks, but it only made it worse as the known author spun tale after tale about Naruto's late-night exploits and even stated he should warn Shizune before they returned. Naruto took his master's insufferable behavior with a smile. He never would speak about his encounter with the mystery lady, only ever saying it was private and outside of the occasional jab. Jiraiya respected it. He may not be able to turn his student into a general pervert, but he can be a focused pervert like Minato. It was his duty as master and godfather, after all. He had never been this angry. Killing the two advisors had done nothing to sat his bloodlust or reduce his rage. The words of that man, the alleged Madara ringing in his head. Itachi was ordered to kill your entire clan by one Danzo Shimura and supported by the Hokage's two advisors. She did it to protect the village but couldn't harm her precious little brother, he said, and it sent Sasuke into emotional overload. But it was the next tidbit that sent his confusion into blind fury. Itachi had been in contact with Naruto. In fact, Naruto was the last person Itachi spoke to before she departed from the village, and the man alleged she had seen him several times since then. The two had some sort of relationship, and Itachi had betrayed the supposed Madara for the Dobi. Sasuke thought back to the last confrontation between Itachi and he quickly realized Naruto intervened on her behalf and denied Sasuke his revenge. A part of him was thankful, the part of him that saw his sister as innocent and forced into a bad position. Another part of him was infuriated. She should have ignored her orders even if her clan was planning a coup, she should have chose family, and she certainly shouldn't be so close to Naruto. So many lies, so much betrayal. The man offered Sasuke a place with him, but he turned the man down, finding him to be inherently untrustworthy. The man accepted but said Sasuke would soon see things his way and left without further word. It was 10 minutes later that the village was under attack and hysteria ensued. Sasuke ignored his duty as a Konoha nin, no longer caring about the people his sister sacrificed his family for. His only goal was to find Danzo and the advisors. He had no luck with Danzo but found the advisors readily enough. They died slowly and confessed it all. How they suspected an Uchiha was behind the Kyuubi attack, how there had been growing distrust between the clan and the village, and how the Sandaime tried to reach a peaceful resolution. They weren't even sorry, he could see it in their eyes. He stabbed them both through the heart with his Chikudo. By the time he was finished, he watched as Naruto, his best friend, was welcomed to the village as a hero. He seethed but chose not to make a scene just yet. He'd wait until the perfect time before he confronted Naruto and got the answers he desired. It hadn't taken long, as the Dobi made haste toward a medical tent. One Sasuke overheard contained Tsunade. She had apparently stressed her reserves, trying to heal as many of these worthless ingrates as possible. Seeing the two were alone, Sasuke assumed it was the perfect time to corner Naruto and moved quickly to do just that. What he hadn't expected was for Naruto to speak before Sasuke had even gotten a chance to announce his presence. You need to ease up on that killing intent, Sasuke. Some might think you mean to do Tsunade harm, and that wouldn't be good, he said, never turning to look at his teammate. Sasuke chose to ignore Naruto's words, too angry at the potential traitor in front of him. What is your relationship with Itachi? Tell me, now, Sasuke barked. Tisk. Naruto uttered before running a hand through his hair. He then turned to look at Sasuke, and it sent a shiver down Sasuke's spine. Enraged or not, his sanity splintering by the second, Sasuke couldn't forget that sequence. It's the same thing that happened when Sasuke tried to defect, when he missed hitting Naruto with a Chidori. The blonde made the same sound, ran a hand through his hair, and then looked at Sasuke with cold eyes. No trace of amusement or joy could be found. His eyes only contained a promise of pain and suffering to whomever met their gaze. It was as if there was a switch that flipped and a more ruthless and aggressive Naruto took hold. To this day, it was the worst beating and most humiliating defeat of his life, and now he was gazing into those same eyes. You don't ever demand things from me, Naruto said neutrally, voice as dry as Kakashi's normally is. You will answer me, Naruto. Will I? Now? Yes, or else. Be careful, Sasuke. You haven't crossed a line yet, but you are nearing it. Don't act, Dobi. You look exhausted. There's no way you could fight me, but I'm still fresh. Sasuke said, but truthfully the calm the Dobi was exuding was throwing him off. And yet, I'm the only one of us not concerned. Go away, Sasuke. I'll discuss this with you later. You will not ignore me, Naruto. What is your relationship with Itachi? That's the second time you've made a demand of me, Sasuke. Don't let there be a third. Sasuke couldn't believe this insufferable, arrogant second-rate shinobi. How dare he dismiss him? How dare he keep information about Itachi from him? How dare he? Sasuke needed answers. He needed to know if Naruto had been lying to him this entire time, if he was just some plant by Itachi to make sure he could never kill her. Were you ever really my friend, Naruto? The question you should be asking yourself is if you were ever really mine. What is that supposed to mean? It's an exercise to help you shift perception. Clearly someone has told you something. I can smell the blood on you, Sasuke, and yet none of the paths of pain bled. Whose blood is that? I'd guess you've done something stupid, once again. Whatever set you off has clearly made you crawl up your OWNSO once again. Naruto must help the Uchiha as the Uchiha can't help himself. We passed Kakashi's bullshit genin test because of me. I beat Haku when he made you a pincushion. I fought when Orochimaru had you ready to piss yourself. I beat Gaara when you were tapped out. I saved you from becoming a traitor and even wrote to have you paroled. I train with you every day to help you improve. I even give you advice when you up with Sakura and she wants to cave your skull in. All that I do for you and you ask me if I were your friend. Just because you do those things doesn't mean you do it out of friendship. And yet, what have you ever done for me? Quote. Sasuke was left speechless. How did this become a referendum on him? He's the one that's been betrayed, the one that has been delayed from his justice, that had his village order the genocide of his clan. Why is Naruto bringing this up now? But you charge in here, demanding things of me. Why the closest person I've ever had to a mother lies here comatose. I need to know, Naruto. Did you stop me from killing Itachi? Sasuke asked, his mental state dissolving by the minute. Of course you need to know. And because you need to know, the world should make it so. But, I am not. Leave, Sasuke. Why won't you just tell me? He shouted. Why won't Naruto just answer his question? Why the game? It must be true, he was never his friend and has been working for Itachi this entire time. Because it isn't important right now. The village is in shambles. Our leader is down. That's more important than your quest for vengeance. Not to me, it isn't. Nothing is more important than getting justice for my clan, and if you stand in my way. If I stand in your way, what? I'll kill you. Tisk. I'm going to break both your arms and legs this time, Sasuke. However, if you try to do anything near Tsunade, I'll remove your eyes as well. I promise. Naruto spoke with absolute confidence. Sasuke reluctantly agreed to move their conversation elsewhere, and the two relocated to Training Ground 7. Last time, Naruto, what is your relationship with Itachi? Please Naruto, just tell me it isn't true. Naruto simply shrugged. His patience had worn thin and he'd forgiven one enemy today, that was apparently his limit. If the Uchiha wanted a redo of their last serious fight, then he'd get it. Before the two could even enter their fighting stances, they were surrounded by Anbu. By orders of Jonin Commander Shikaku, Sasuke Uchiha, you are under arrest for the murders of advisors Koharu Udatane and Homura Mitokado, spoke Neko. Those fossils ordered the death of my clan. I had every right, Sasuke said, snapping at being denied information from Naruto and being accused of a crime as if he'd done something wrong. Naruto could only shake his head. There was no way he could get the fool out of this one, not even leveraging his newfound status as the village's hero will stop it. He promised Itachi he'd protect her precious person, but has clearly failed in that regard. The thought burned Naruto in the pit of his stomach. He went back on his Nindo, through no fault of his own, because this fool couldn't be bothered to wait. Or act like a shinobi and actually get away with his activities. Feeling an overwhelming need to hurt Sasuke, Naruto wished the Anbu weren't here. Oh, the seals he could use for this occasion. Naruto was broken from his line of thinking when an Anbu spoke. Stand down, Uchiha. We have been cleared to use force as you have violated the conditions of your parole. I will not, Sasuke said, drawing his Chikudo. Naruto, you have one last chance to tell me what you know about Itachi, or their blood will be on your hands. Tisk. Stop saying that, Sasuke yelled before dashing toward Naruto, only to be stopped by a last-minute visitor in an orange mask who promptly warped Sasuke away. Oh my, it seems he's quite upset with you, Naruto. Imagine how mad he'll be when I tell him you banged his sister. Tisk. If you've only come to run your mouth, then flee back into your little rat hole, coward. I'll be around to settle all accounts with you soon enough, said the Jinchuriki. Oh, you've become interesting. I'm almost tempted to see if you could back it up. True, you may have defeated Nagato, but I'm on an entirely different level. Only because you're above ground. Go tend to your bitch boy before I change that. Besides, the only Uchiha with any nuts was the one born without them. Little chicken ship Uchiha hiding behind a mask can become intangible and still couldn't beat the Yondaime. How useless you are, little failure. Watch your mouth, boy, spoke the masked Uchiha. Or what? Attack anyone here and I'll kill you. Ah, but what of Tsunade? She's all alone. PFF'd. You actually think I'm not a shadow clone. Such poor deduction skills, but you think you're a threat to me. Flee, little failure. I've decided you get to live another day. But know this, whatever monumental up you did that caused you to seek this path and hide your face, nothing you do will make up for it. I'll enjoy killing you, boy, just like I killed that loudmouth mother of yours. Oh, you killed a woman right after she gave birth, truly you are a god among men. The masked man simply vanished, saying nothing else in response. We need to get to Tsunade. I am not a shadow clone and I can't let that asshole call my bluff. The entire Anbu party obeyed and left via Shunshin to their vulnerable leader. The idea seemed perfect. Sasuke was withdrawn and a loner due to his past trauma. Sakura truly cared for him and would be an emotional support. Naruto was bright and outgoing, friendly with anyone who'd give him half a chance and actual friends with Sakura. The three had the template for overlapping skill sets that would make them a stunning team. Sasuke and Naruto might even establish a rivalry to push them forward. He'd pay back Obito and his sensei and maybe train legends. It couldn't fail. He'd lost most of Naruto's respect the day of their true genin test. He'd made a crack about Naruto being a dead last, knowing it wasn't true but as a psychological ploy. Naruto just looked at him as if he were absolute scum. Then during the end of the test when he tied Naruto up, he'd permanently broken something between them. Sakura wouldn't listen to Naruto because she was too conditioned to follow orders, so the idea that Kakashi would trick her just wouldn't enter her mind. Sasuke was too arrogant to think he needed a team. Naruto figured out the test, so he had to be the one tied up. If either of the other two were, Naruto would just feed him or her and pass without the other two really understanding the meaning of the exam. Naruto took it as another form of discrimination, another person deciding he was stupid and a failure despite all evidence. He was never invested in the team, not how Kakashi wanted. He'd follow orders, but the dedicated Kakashi demanded, the emotional connection that made the team work instinctual wasn't there. Kakashi refused to teach them much else until it was. Naruto took it as negligence and made an even bigger show of doing what Kakashi commanded, but only that. He wouldn't open up to Kakashi, wouldn't acknowledge him as a real sensei. Kakashi didn't train him for his Chunin exam finals, and Naruto only said he'd expected as much from someone like him. He promptly left, not even being told of the trainer Kakashi had arranged nor his justification for dedicating his time to Sasuke. If Naruto were a better teammate, he'd acknowledge that Sasuke was in greater risk and needed the extra help to survive Gaara. If Naruto could just give Kakashi a little bit of leeway, he'd see he didn't view Naruto as a dead last idiot, it was just a ploy. He didn't ask for Naruto to be on his team just to reinforce the perception he was a loser and an idiot. He just wanted to train his sensei's son, but train him how he wanted to. Immense chakra capacity doesn't entitle you to jutsu, and yet if he wasn't seeing a visibly improvement in his skills, Naruto found Kakashi's teachings to be worthless. He just rejected everything the man stood for, but did it in a way he could never be held accountable for it. He lost all of Naruto's respect when he argued Naruto wasn't ready for Chunin. That he couldn't brush off slights from his comrades and was insubordinate when he didn't get his way. Kakashi had felt his words were true when he spoke them. Naruto should have forgiven Kakashi for their genin exam. He should have tried to truly connect with Sasuke instead of pretending while secretly resenting having to spend time with them both. He should have accepted that Kakashi wasn't holding them back out of malice or laziness, but teamwork was the bedrock of Konoha teams and no other skill was as important as that. If Naruto refused to buy into his system, then he didn't deserve to advance his ninjutsu. Besides, Kakashi knew if Naruto had received the promotion, then he would have left the team, and it wasn't time for that. He wasn't supposed to leave, he was supposed to want to be part of this team. Sasuke attempted to defect. Kakashi could believe it but was heartbroken all the same. The boy couldn't outrun his demons, it appears. He traveled as fast as he could to, hopefully, find both Naruto and Sasuke fine. When he came upon the scene, the valley was wrecked and Sasuke was on the ground in a broken and bloody heap. When he went to address Naruto, his student said only one thing, "Tisk," and promptly shunshined away. Sasuke had a broke right arm, fractures in his left leg, bruised ribs, broken right clavicle and a severe concussion according to the medical ninja. Naruto didn't speak to Kakashi again before he left with Jiraiya, but Tsunade made a point of granting Naruto a field promotion to Chunin for the success. He returned, from a boy to a young man. Kakashi hoped to put the past behind them, to make amends, having come to terms that he wasn't the sensei he should have been. That he couldn't demand emotional investment and withhold potentially life-saving skills until he got it, but one look in Naruto's eyes told the tale. He was still scum to him. To Naruto, Kakashi was only a collection of every time he'd disappointed the blonde and nothing else. He, surprisingly, accepted he'd have to stay on Team Kakashi given the Akatsuki threat, but Kakashi assumed it's only because it came from Tsunade. That first training session, on the surface, was tension-free, but Kakashi could see Naruto holding back. Making sure to appear just a little slower than Sasuke, a little less astute in his tactics. A sign you didn't fully trust your team if there ever was one. And now, Kakashi sits in the chair. In his sensei's chair. In the Sandame's chair. In Tsunade's chair and, without a doubt in his mind, in Naruto's future chair. He is supposed to speak with the gravitas and authority of those who have sat here before him while meeting the gaze of the one who will sit here in the future. Tisk, can you repeat that, Hokage-san? Kakashi had taken note of his new verbal tic. According to Jiraiya, it seems to emerge during times of great stress but goes away in a few days. The honorific was not suitable, but if Kakashi pressed it, he knows the retort Naruto has prepared. What makes you think you're more worthy of respect than Jiji or Ba-chan? The blonde would ask, and Kakashi felt ill at ease enough in this position without having that confrontation. The Anbu that tried to apprehend Sasuke said he mentioned something about you and Itachi having a connection. What did he mean? Since he asked a question, I assume he wanted me to confirm or deny if we did. And I didn't get around to answering it. We got interrupted. Naruto, do you have some connection with Itachi? Do you? You were her Anbu captain. Stop changing the subject. Kakashi ordered, and Naruto had to fight the urge to ask what Kakashi would do if he didn't. He was not in the correct frame of mind to deal with the Cyclops, and the village didn't need another Hokage in a coma, but Kakashi really needed to watch his fu. Calm down. Jiraiya spoke. While the two had gotten close during their training trip, the month away for sage training had evolved their relationship further. Having no more lies between them, along with Jiraiya almost dying, made Naruto let down his defenses, knowing he could trust his master and godfather. And his deep voice could be soothing, however, it wasn't as simple as staying calm or not. He didn't know why he'd get keyed up like this over certain things, but it wasn't as simple as turning it off, and it didn't help that Kakashi now occupied a position he clearly wasn't worthy of and had the nerve to question Naruto over what some traitor said. Deep breaths. Naruto, he thought to himself. It's not like he could fight Kakashi and his 4 Anbu guards even if they aren't fully at the ready, and Kakashi's guilt over Sasuke would dull his initial reaction. Damn sensory ability, he thought. He really did need to calm down. Why are you so concerned with the accusation of a traitor and not, his treason? Something set him off, Naruto. He'd been improving, so for him to turn his back on everything, something happened. Tisk. Yay. The Uchiha who rescued him. It was in the report. Yes, but it's also a matter of what he said and why Sasuke felt the need to come to you after killing the advisors. They had been at this for 20 minutes. Jiraiya knew Naruto didn't hold much affection for Kakashi, but this is the first time he saw the extent that Naruto felt no respect for the Junin. While he knows why this really wasn't the time, they had things to do and it was a waste to play this game, especially with a Gokage summit coming up. Jiraiya didn't enjoy what he was about to order Naruto to do, but if Kakashi was going to be the acting Hokage, he needed to have all the information he could. Naruto, tell him. His godson didn't turn away from Kakashi. A stare-down wouldn't change things, but Jiraiya saw the reluctance in his body, some part of him entertaining the idea of just refusing, knowing it'd be pointless. He doesn't delay for long before speaking. Itachi was my Anbu guard. She broke protocol and became my friend. We met a few times during my training trip. Why would you betray Sasuke like that? You've got to be with me, said Naruto, as he couldn't believe his first concern was the supposedly betrayal of Sasuke and not putting himself at risk or betraying the village. Danzo and the elders ordered Itachi to kill the Uchiha clan as the leaders were planning a coup. Itachi isn't a traitor, Sasuke actually is. Now, save your recrimination for later, Kakashi. You have the information you need, and as one of your only field-ready S-rank nins, Naruto's time is better spent elsewhere. I think that's my decision, Jiraiya. Then make the smart one and wrap this up, said Jiraiya, who too was shocked by Kakashi's first concern being his Uchiha brat. Fine. Naruto, what was the nature of these meetings between Itachi and you? We played board games. Board games? Yay. Checkers, Monopoly and the like. You can leave, Naruto. Thanks, Hokage-san, Naruto said before departing. He really holds no respect for me. I see. I'm kinda surprised. He tends to find something to respect about everyone, even enemies. Or absentee godfathers. That trained the kid properly for years. I explained why I wasn't here, copped to not doing all I could have. He was disappointed but forgave me. You acted like a brat. It wasn't enough to get what you wanted if you didn't get it how you wanted it. You clearly favor that traitor over your other students. It's not that I favored Sasuke, even if no one will ever believe me. I know how it looks. I've spent more time developing him than Sakura or Naruto, but it wasn't out of favoritism or because Sasuke was like me or a genius and easy to train. I honestly thought he needed it more. He wasn't like Naruto. He didn't make connections to help with his trauma, he turned inward and it wasn't healthy. His genin team and sensei could have been a new family. I was trying to solve what I assumed was the most immediate and dire problem, a damaged flight risk. All Naruto had to do was try to truly connect. If he had, then we could have moved on. There is no rule that says you have to like your team, Kakashi. It was my rule. It was my team. If I demand a higher standard for teamwork, it was on them to meet it. Naruto routinely refused. Sasuke did, too. I'm aware, but truthfully he didn't know how to connect to people. Naruto just didn't like Sasuke. Which would have been in their files. You forced Naruto on a team you'd know he'd hate and make everyone assume he was a low-ranking student. You didn't have to teach him, Kakashi. Especially when you didn't teach him anything anyway. Asuma could have helped with his wind manipulation. Kurenai with his chakra control and tracking. You lobbied for him, played on Sensei's soft side to get Minato's boy, and then squandered his time and talent with your bullshit. And you know what's really sad? Sensei saw it all. Saw how miserable Naruto was to be with you and Sasuke. He felt guilty he'd done that to his grandson but had no other team to reassign him to. He was glad when I returned and made me promise I'd train Naruto seriously. True, I acted the idiot at first, but I followed through. That's why Naruto forgave me, because I helped him become a better shinobi. I helped him face his challenges. Had he been stuck with you, he'd possibly be dead already or stuck as a genin. Was your petty revenge worth it? I honestly didn't see it as revenge at the time. I regret I spoke against him, but in the moment I didn't think he was ready. In the moment you wanted to spite Naruto for flouting your beliefs. You didn't care if he stalled his progress because all that mattered is him advancing your way, said Jiraiya, not allowing for Kakashi's delusions any longer. Also, keep in mind that Naruto never outright ignored your teachings like you did with Minato. He tried to impart the importance of teamwork. You were all about the mission, but he still trained and prepared you. We were at war. I guess Suna and Oto were just challenging us to a vigorous spar. I didn't know we were going to be invaded. That's how war works when you're a shinobi. They don't wave a banner, Kakashi. So, I just get labeled as the negligent sensei who favorites the genius even if it isn't true. You're about the only one that doesn't believe it to be true. Maybe that should tell you something. That I'm surrounded by idiots, replied Kakashi. Yes, it's everyone else that's wrong. Is there anything else I need to know about Naruto and Itachi? No. And you'd tell me if there was? No. I'd jeopardize the safety of a village I've been protecting a lifetime before you were born. Jiraiya replied before he exited, deciding to go find his apprentice. It didn't take Jiraiya long to find Naruto, though he waited for him to be finished with his other teammate as she appeared distressed. He approached as she departed, seeing Naruto stare out into the light of the training ground. Hey, kid. Hey sensei. Or do you prefer Kyofu? I never did ask you that. I'm just happy you don't call me pervy sage anymore, so whichever you feel appropriate, Naruto. I won't read into it either way. Cool. So, come to scold me. I think I have to wrap your knuckles a little. You were really pushing it with Kakashi. I know, and I have no defense. We can write it off as stress and Kakashi won't make a thing of it this time, but we don't know when Tsunade will wake up and she may not be in a condition to return to the hat when she does. If that's the case, Kakashi will be the Hokage, and for someone who wants that job it isn't smart to make an enemy of him. He could pick someone else. I considered that, but don't worry, I have a plan. Oh, this should be good. War. That freak in the mask made it official. The 5 great shinobi villages will unite to defeat said masked man and his nefarious plot. But Naruto, Jinchuriki, Sage, Bad Mother Shut Yo Mouth will not be on the battlefield. He will not be giving aid to his comrades, sharing in their misery and pain. He will be hidden away because the masked man said he was coming for the only 2 Jinchuriki left. Naruto was not happy about that. Naruto let it be known he was not happy about that, but relented when Tsunade and Jiraiya argued it was the best thing for the alliance, even if they didn't agree with the decision. As a concession to this, Jiraiya said he knew some place Naruto and he could go and it'd have a connection with his past, Uzushio. They left at the dead of night. Naruto couldn't look his friends in the face as they prepared to go to war. Partially for him, he felt enough shame already. He did leave a note for Sakura and Hinata wishing them well and a safe return, but it's all he could really do. He had a strong desire to punch the rakage in his mouth for his decision. The trip was silent, Jiraiya giving Naruto something of a wide berth, knowing his apprentice was already straining to accept he couldn't be there for his friends. As they traveled, Naruto thought he felt something following them and signaled Jiraiya to stop. He stretched his senses to their max, but the brief sensation he felt was nowhere to be found. Jiraiya concluded the kid was just looking for some action, to which Naruto rolled his eyes. The 2 travelers continued on their journey, but Naruto noticed Jiraiya was starting to act weird. He had a knowing smile which Naruto never found comfort in. When Jiraiya insisted they stop at an inn, Naruto thought nothing of it until he came out of the shower the next morning and Jiraiya gifted him a new set of clothes. Black pants and a black V-neck long-sleeve shirt that was a little snug and a freshly pressed sage cloak. The 2 chartered a boat to the former island nation, but Naruto was on edge due to Jiraiya's giddiness, but try not to think about it too much. His master had been down since the loss of his arm, even if he tried to hide it, so if he were excited about something Naruto would indulge the man. He didn't know how'd he feel seeing his ancestral home, but when they arrived on shore, he'd admit he felt wistful that he'd never truly know his clan, that he only had second-hand accountings of what Jiraiya said were a lively people. Distracted but not overwhelmed, he almost didn't notice it, a pinging of familiarity. He almost dismissed it as his mind simply wanting it to be true, wanting her to be here, but he'd learned to listen to his instincts and instead expanded his senses. A moment later he was looking at Jiraiya, his eyes demanding an explanation, but the pervert just smiled and shrugged. Naruto took off, his body in motion before he realized it, rapidly closing in on the chakra signature he'd sensed. It didn't take long for her to be in view, sitting beside a lake, her back to him. He started to walk slowly toward her, hoping against hope his childhood clumsiness didn't flare up and make him look uncool. Sage or not, he was still a 16-year-old. He sat beside her as she peered out onto the water, her eyes never leaving the serene view. He found himself unable to speak, having too many things to say and nothing to say at all. Isn't this what he wanted? No masks, false backstories or anything else between them. It'd just be them and they could be honest with themselves and each other. But Naruto didn't realize, not until he was without them, that those very things he felt got in the way offered a type of security, but now they didn't have those to lean on. In this moment he couldn't be anyone else. He was Naruto Uzumaki sitting by Itachi Uchiha, the woman he's had some manner of feelings for throughout the majority of his life, and he couldn't even talk to her. It was frustrating. Why was this so hard? As if sensing the crisis her companion was experiencing, Itachi turned toward Naruto and offered him a smile. Nothing overly large, and if one didn't know her they may even call it a smirk, but it was not. What it was something that fit her perfectly and sent a rush of heat throughout Naruto's chest. It also helped calm him down. They never relied on a great deal of verbal communication when she was his guard. There was no reason that needed to change right now. He could just enjoy her presence and hope she'd do the same. The two enjoyed the companionable silence for what felt like an eternity to the blonde, but he knew he had to say something, loath as he was to make him the first topic during their time together, but he'd failed to live up to his promise. I'm sorry, I said I'd protect Sasuke from himself and I didn't. He said it just above a whisper, but Itachi could tell the utter sincerity of his words, not out of any real concern for her brother but because of the promise he made her. She shook her head at her fellow ninja, thinking that chivalry would get him hurt one day, but was touched he truly meant to keep his word to her. I don't blame you. Jiraiya told me what happened. It was an impossible situation. So, it was. Besides, do you really want to talk about my foolish little brother? I never want to talk about him, Dadbao. Shit. You still do that. Be careful or they'll put adorable under your bingo book entry. Shut up. It rarely happens. Naruto said, fighting back a blush. I'm sure. Itachi said with a small giggle. And just like that the awkwardness and uneasiness was gone. The two would spend the rest of the day exploring Naruto's ancestral homeland. Eventually Itachi led Naruto to where she had been staying. Not all of the structures had been utterly destroyed and Itachi found herself a small home in still decent condition, certainly better than sleeping in a tent. Looking around her dwellings he didn't pay attention to her closing the distance between them, not until her hands were on his cheek and before he knew it, he was pulled into a kiss. Not one of fiery passion, a gentle one, but it still made his heart beat faster. Hey, she whispered, yet to release him from her grasp. Hi, replied back before encircling his arm behind her back and pulling her closer to him. The kiss was a little deeper this time, a little longer. Things quickly escalated from there. Kisses gave way to touching, clothes started to be removed, and soon enough the two began to make love. It was different this time, a sedate pace not born of nervousness but a desire to enjoy the brief respite the pair have. For Naruto, it was vindication, proof they could make things work. He could be with the woman he truly loves, and the very thought of it, his love for Itachi at times felt overwhelming as it rarely had an outlet. Even if he couldn't bring himself to speak the words, some part of him afraid she'd reject the declaration, he could at least show it through action, through the merging of their bodies. Itachi, however, was too enjoying the moment but avoided all thoughts of the future. This could be a sweet memory along with the others Naruto had provided her in the past, but it couldn't be more than that. She stared into the eyes of the blonde above her, his eyes conveying everything he was feeling at the moment. Desire being the most readily apparent, but also love. He loved her, and if she felt so selfish for it as it could never go anywhere. She'd never acknowledge it nor return it, that'd only leave a larger scar on his heart when she eventually left. Briefly, visions of a small blonde girl with too much energy pervade her thoughts, but she stamps it down. There is no future, there is just now, and she'll enjoy the now all she can. Itachi allowed herself to be distracted by the breathing of Naruto and the warmth she felt from it on her collarbone. Soon enough all thoughts and concerns melted away as she felt their mutual climax approaching until all was just a haze. The pair would couple twice more before allowing sleep to take them. It was the next morning and the couple lied in bed, each savoring being in the proximity of the other. Itachi was the first to breach the silence, giving voice to something she had noticed before. "What's that seal on your pelvis do?" she asked directly. "Oh, it's a contraceptive seal for men. After the first time you visited me I had hoped there'd be a second and figured the world didn't need any Sharingan-wielding Uzumaki running around just yet. So I wrote to Sakura-chan about the medical aspects and swore her to secrecy. I didn't need Ba-chan to think I was just out perving every chance I got, Dadbao." She was impressed he'd managed to create a seal that could achieve what he claimed, but something else stuck out to her. "Yet?" she asked while quirking her eyebrow, causing him instantly to blush and stammer. "I mean, not that I was planning on when we would have kids, not that I wouldn't, I was trying to be safe and stop looking at me like that." Naruto was instantly rewarded with a giggle and a kiss on his cheek. He turned to see the smile on her face, her eyes shining with amusement. "I know what you meant, Naruto-kun," she said, her smile never leaving her face. "Oh, think you can prank the former king of pranks?" Naruto said while getting atop of Itachi. "I guess I'll just have to show you why you shouldn't," he said, and instantly started tickling her, much to her protest. There were many threats of inescapable genjutsu or kato jutsu hotter than the sun, but it only made Naruto laugh at her predicament. Naruto did have responsibilities on Uzu outside of spending time with Itachi. Killer Bee had given Jiraiya instructions on how to tap into one's Biju chakra with a measure of control far surpassing anything Jiraiya had seen Naruto manage. Granted, getting Naruto to use the fox's chakra was a maddeningly frustrating endeavor. But for the sake of the war effort, in case he was needed, Naruto agreed to figure something out, fighting off a smirk at what Jiraiya didn't know. "No," Kurama boomed. "Come on, handsome, we had a deal." And in truth they did. Naruto met Kurama when he was 8. Inoichi's belief he was well aware of his status before he ever blackmailed the Sandame was spot on. At first, Kurama was just an angry, insulting tem of a fox, but slowly the two came to peace with each other, realizing neither was responsible for what the other had to endure. Their relationship had improved to the point Kurama promised, when it was time, he'd freely work with Naruto. The reason he'd waited until now is he didn't want his partner and first friend in many lifetimes to be weaponized. If they knew Naruto had free access to his chakra, Kurama was concerned that all other development would end and Naruto would be forced to do something drastic, something he wouldn't forgive himself for, so the two could escape. With the pressure of having to become a perfect Jinchuriki, or at least weather the hate of a prisoner, Naruto continued to develop his own abilities while also having someone to talk to when he got lonely. It was a good deal, given the situation. That was before I knew you'd willingly mate with an Uchiha. And if that weren't bad enough, you actually love the vile product of that cursed clan. Ida-chan isn't like that. Also, she killed off most of her clan, shouldn't that please you? Nope. She left the job undone. Besides, And this is very important brat, you'd willing sire kits with her. Even now you want to get this over with so you can return to her bed. Because she's so good. Like, oh my god good. I'd consider giving up Ichiraku ramen, good. I wouldn't give it up but I'd have to pause and think about it. Kurama, she does this thing with her hips and she gets just enough leverage and silence. Just, why an Uchiha? That Hyuga girl seems nice and has good hips. She will give you strong children. Well, I don't love Hinata. Couldn't tell from that one time you had her on your couch and was taking off her pant. Okay, I get it. That was a mistake on my part. Anyway, can we just do this? It's possible I won't be able to defeat all of these guys without your help. Fine. You know you're going to have to accept your darkness and stuff, right? Yes, yes. Can we do this so I can go get laid? Pervert. You don't get it. Hips and leverage. Yes, I heard you the first time. Okay, so how do I do this? Remove the seal, confront your darkness and then we fist bump and go kick some. After I spend some more time with Ida-chan. It's a sickness, it has to be. Don't judge me, I'm a man with needs, Dadbeo. Naruto said, approaching the cage and beginning to remove the seal, only to have his hand stopped by a tall blonde, one Naruto immediately punched in the jaw. Hi, Tu-san, he shouted, to the confusion of Minato. Naruto, what are you doing? He's doing what you claimed you wanted him to do, dumbass. Quiet, Fox. Hey, don't talk to Kurama like that dad or no dad, I'll deck you again. Wait, what? Minato said in confusion. Yay, we're partners, he was going to give me access to his chakra before you interrupted so I cook or nah. What? The Yondaime imprint wasn't having a good brain day. Naruto just rolled his eyes. For a guy that stuck the two together, he sure as shit didn't seem aware of how this was supposed to go. Just sit back, Pops, I got this. And with that Naruto finished moving the seal only to see nothing happen. The Kyuubi, Kurama, he reminded himself wasn't trying to actively escape but the duration of the seal being undone triggered something else. For thousands of years of laid dormant. Who has disturbed the great and powerful Kushina-sama, Databane? Oh, God, it's the flying tomato. Flying tomato? Both blondes asked. I told you never to call me that, Databane. Kushina shouted before approaching her son and giving him a tight hug. Hi, Sochi-kun. Hi, Ka-chan. He replied back, a few unshed tears in his eyes. Why does she get tears and I get punched? I'm not going to cry over some dude. It's called the bro code. That doesn't apply to fathers and sons. It so totally does. Even my old man knew that and he created Ninshu. Kurama offered, helpfully. We don't have time for this. So, Sochi-kun, you're ready to work with Usagi-chan, I see. I'm not a rabbit you bruised tomato head. And I'm not a tomato, flying or otherwise, jerk. Why did he call you the flying tomato, Ka-chan? Because when she was a kid she had a round, plump face with blood-red hair so she looked like a tomato. She also had the temper of a spree killer, always flying off the handle. You're working on a chain enema, Fox. I'll step on you if you try. Guys, no more. We can't have that much time, right? So let's enjoy the time we do have. You just want to go back to banging Itachi. Bro code, dumb Fox. Doesn't apply to Biju. Kurama said with a laugh. You can't be you ally active, you're too young, mister. PFF'd. I ain't stopping so you're just going to have to deal with it. Naruto said only to receive a similar punch to the one he hit Minato with. You've let Jiraiya corrupt you despite my words. Kushina started, eyes white and her hair floating mimicking nine tails. Don't worry, Sochi-kun. I'll beat the pervert right out of you. It's what's Ka-chans are for, Databane. Dad, a little help. He'd felt the presence again, the one he felt while traveling to Uzu. Fortunately, his extensive security seal, the Iron Palace seal, not only buttressed his sensory abilities but also offered offensive and defensive responses to unwanted intrusions. Jiraiya had to find that out the hard way. The seal alerted him to the oncomer and Naruto could sense it was approaching them. He didn't know what annoyed him most, the intruder or that he'd have to leave bed to deal with said intruder as he was still holding Itachi as her head lay on his chest. Itachi, Naruto whispered, do you know of someone or something that can merge with trees? Zetsu, the Akatsuki's main source for intelligence. He could seemingly get anywhere almost undetected. Oh, anything else you can tell me about him? He eats people. I want to be judgmental, but given recent events I'd be something of a hypocrite, he said while wiggling his eyebrows. You've been around Jiraiya too long. I believe Kushina-sama was correct in attempting to beat his influence out of you. I'm just trying to keep the mood light given I'm about to go torture this thing. I don't think it's human. So, what's your plan? The next time he reveals himself I'll restrain him and we can go from there. It didn't take long for Zetsu to once again emerge from the vegetation, and just as Naruto said, he had a series of seals to restrain him, block access to his chakra and burn him in an eternal flame if Zetsu didn't talk. It was a similar array to what he used for Danzo, a flame that just caused constant pain but would never truly burn the victim and was sustained by the victim's very own chakra reserves. Naruto wasn't a fan of his torture seal, but he realized it had utility. Zetsu talked, but not because of the threat of torture. Kagaya's will just understood he'd overplayed his hand, his time was up and he'd ultimately failed in his mission to revive his mother. Naruto almost felt bad for the bastard until he relayed that Tobi was commanding an army of white Zetsu that could mimic anyone, and not even a Byakugan nor most sensors could tell the difference. Along with dozens of Edo Tensei of the strongest shinobi in history, the alliance was in trouble. Itachi burned Zetsu with her Amaterasu and the couple found Jiraiya so they could head off to battle. Once the trio was ready, Naruto made them vanish in a flash of yellow. The scene they arrived to was bad. All five sitting cage were barely clinging on to life as some long-haired Uchiha zombie mocked them. Tsunade's torso was separated from her legs as she was slowly dragging herself toward her legs to reattach them. Jiraiya was dismayed. Itachi was surprised to see just who the Uchiha was. Naruto was livid, beside himself, downright murderous, and fortunately for him, there were no moral qualms to killing a zombie and an army of plant people. He helped Tsunade on her path and then shared Kurama's chakra with her so she could fully heal herself in the other cage. Madara, Itachi identified, didn't seem bothered by any of this and just let the Jinchuriki do what he wanted. Naruto surmised that the Uchiha clan must have parables about how arrogance in battle assures victory, because that's the only way that makes sense. It took some doing, but Jiraiya and Itachi agreed to go face Tobi with the small army of shadow clones Naruto provided while he would stay and face Madara, the duo only agreeing to it after he promised he had a plan for the man. Tsunade wanted to argue against Naruto doing this, but she had already failed and the shame of it made her stay quiet. Naruto slowly approached the notorious Uchiha, trying to remain calm as undue haste would result in his death. Come to face me alone, boy? Madara asked. What can you do that those five cage couldn't? Even with the power of my pet fox, you're nothing compared to me. Tisk. A couple of questions before we start. It's not every day you get to meet a legend. Seeing Madara consent, Naruto continued, is it true? Hashirama-sama tried to shove a tree up your at the valley of the end, but it was blocked by the 10-foot pole you normally kept up there. This caused the Uchiha to go wide-eyed before narrowing them to slits. That's question one, brat. One more before we dance and you die. That question was for you to ask me. Like I said, it isn't every day you get to meet a legend. You should be honored, Tem. I'm going to enjoy this, but I doubt you'll last even 5 minutes. When this is over, I'm going to want to see that same energy. 4:59 later. A blinded and restrained Madara has a look of disbelieving rage plastered on his face. How a shinobi he outclasses in every area managed to do this to him is still something he can't understand. Naruto, however, just looked ready to finish this stage of the battle. And what a battle it was. Madara spammed high-level jutsu after high-level jutsu only for Naruto to continually dodge but inch his way to his opponent. Eventually it became a taijutsu battle and Naruto baited Madara until he revealed his trump card. The chakra arms he could produce. No one knew about them and Naruto made sure not to reveal them until he could strike, and strike he did. Naruto created 3 arms, each designed with a specific seal in mind. 2 would seal Madara's eyes, robbing him of his Rinnegan, and the last would end the bastard for good. How? Madara grunted. I'm just so tempted to say ninja and leave it at that, but I'll be quick. There was an asshole that killed my grandfather using the jutsu that brought you back. I was determined to never allow myself to be defenseless against it, so I took a look at the village's forbidden scroll of seals. It turns out the Edo Tensei isn't that complex. There needs to be a physical body because dead bodies still contain yang chakra. The jutsu calls back the yin chakra of the intended and the DNA or blood, along with the chakra provided by the user as the anchor that allows the yin to merge with the foreign yang. You separate the two and the jutsu ends. I essentially did that, except when your yin releases it'll be more like a very small star collapsing, and hopefully you'll take that fake with you. What's your name, boy? Naruto Uzumaki. Of course, that clan of second-rate shinobi. Fighting with ink like a bunch of cowards. Oh no, Mr. Zombie, don't insult my clan. Whatever, loser, just sit there and wait to be of use. Before he departed, Naruto had something he needed to tell her. He whispered it in her ear. She looked mildly shocked, but his firm head nod confirmed he meant what he said. He then disappeared in a yellow flash. Tsunade, what did the boy tell you? Asked I. The person controlling the Edo Tensei was Sasuke Uchiha. The battle against the eventually revealed Obito was hard fought. He pulled some broken hack's ability to avoid being killed by Naruto's Madara bomb, but it still injured him. The fight against the other Biju was epic. Naruto, Killer Bee and Itachi worked very well as a newly formed team, much to Obito's ire. He became increasingly unhinged, going for wide area effects jutsu and abandoning tactics. It managed to keep the alliance from landing a killing blow, but Obito was no closer to getting the 2 remaining Biju. Then Sasuke arrived and literally stabbed Obito in the back, ending the war. Except he had a deranged look in his eyes. He started shouting Naruto's name repeatedly, and Naruto was more than willing to meet the challenge. Sasuke had crossed the last line. There was no rehabilitation to be had. He was a mad beast and Naruto would put him down, promises be damned. Itachi stopping and kissing him before he went to face Sasuke surprised him. For one, she didn't strike him as the type to be overly comfortable with public displays of affection. 2. The emotion behind it felt off. He couldn't quite figure out why, but something was wrong and the look in her eyes didn't help. It was when she turned towards Sasuke's direction he realized what she intended to do. She was saying goodbye, finally going to sacrifice herself for the sake of her brother, and Naruto was having none of it, but before he could stop her or even move he felt an arm around his neck. It was Jiraiya, executing a choke hold, and even with one arm it was damn near impossible to break. Jiraiya, stop, let me go. Naruto bellowed as if suffering the greatest anguish of his life. Please, Jiraiya, let me go. But Jiraiya wouldn't release Naruto and the lack of blood flow was starting to affect him. Naruto immediately tried to call upon Kurama's chakra, only for Sakura to slap a seal on him. Naruto was blacking out fast. His last sight was of Itachi's back as she marched toward her death. He awoke 3 days later. Apparently, Sakura and Kakashi thought it a good idea to place him in a medically induced coma so they could subdue Sasuke without Naruto killing him. Why? Comrades don't abandon each other. When Naruto awoke, Jiraiya was there, and it took a great deal of Naruto's self-control not to lash out at the man, even more after Jiraiya's first sentence. She's gone, Naruto. And there it was. Confirmation that she finally completed her mission to die by her brother's hands. Aided by his godfather, friend, and Junin sensei. In that moment, Naruto wanted to kill all three and was finding it almost impossible to come up with a reason not to. Tsunade had been working on a prosthetic since I came back from fighting Nagato. When you turned over Danzo's body, it gave her some ideas. 3 weeks, Naruto. I'm asking you to sit on this for 3 weeks and then you and I can fight it out, and no matter what the result is, you won't be held responsible. Jiraiya said and saw Naruto nod. Jiraiya started to head toward the door but was stopped when Naruto spoke. Why? Because she felt like she had to. Whether you accept it or not, Itachi blamed herself for how Sasuke turned out and for his inability to fight off the darkness. She needed to atone and I couldn't take that away from her. She'd sacrificed everything for the village, she at the very least deserved that. She deserved a future, to have her name cleared and be acknowledged as the loyal kunoichi she was. True, but she didn't want that, she wanted to try to save her brother. Then she wasted her time. Naruto, let it go. Sasuke is in a holding facility, chakra sealed and guarded by a small army of Black Op ninja. Whatever designs you may have on his life, let it go. Why do I have to have designs on his life? He's going to be executed, right? Right. When the advisor's deeds came to the attention of the daimyo, he pulled some strings. Felt Sasuke wasn't completely responsible for his actions, not even helping Obito, so no execution, but he'll likely never be released from prison. Well, isn't that grand? Leave, Jiraiya. I'll see you in 3 weeks. The duel between the two Toad Sages destroyed 3 training grounds by the time it was done. Kakashi ordered all other ninja to avoid the surrounding areas so no one truly witnessed the details of the battle, but the destruction of the land told the story of 2 high-level shinobi going at each other with intent and a tier of power most ninja couldn't truly comprehend. Both combatants managed to leave under their own power, but Jiraiya did have to go directly to the hospital, whereas Naruto simply vanished. 3 months after the end of the war, Naruto received a request from Sasuke to visit him in prison. Naruto knew the asshole wanted nothing of importance but decided to go, to have one final conversation with him. It started off how one could predict, Sasuke admonishing Naruto for his betrayal, how if he'd be a true friend none of this would have happened, and how it was his betrayal with Itachi that was truly unforgivable. All of that was more or less boilerplate and easily ignored, it was his final statements that sealed Sasuke's fate. Does it hurt, Naruto? That she's gone? Yes, Sasuke, it does. No, not that. Of course it hurts my Nei-san is gone. Does it hurt that she loved me more than you? That she chose death by my hand over being with you? Does that burn? Does it keep you up at night? Your inability to protect your precious person because she didn't value you enough. Did she even tell you she loved you? Because she told me, right before my Kirin vaporized her. She sounded so sincere. I'm sorry for all the pain I caused you, Sasuke, and I'll always love you, she said. And for that love you killed her. No, you killed her. This village killed her, just like it killed the rest of my clan. My best friend and my sister, screwing behind my back. Laughing at me, plotting and planning and manipulating me. You had to answer for your betrayal. One of you had to die, but truthfully I wanted it to be you. I think it's because I've always hated you, at least a little. Well, this has been a blast, Sasuke. Enjoy your time in prison. Oh, I will. No matter what, I'll always be the person that took your love from you, and there is nothing you can do about it. You won't seek revenge, it's not your way. Goodbye, Dobi. Live in misery. As Naruto was exiting the visitors area, he felt a familiar presence arrive in the shadows. What are your orders, Naruto-sama? Asked Sai, one of the many former Root members that had slowly transitioned back into village life, and while many wouldn't never fully have their emotions back, they were getting some and were thankful to Naruto for no longer being beholden to Danzo. Is it all set? Naruto asked. Yes, we have successfully infiltrated the prison, be it guards or inmates. Good. I want you to do nothing. Nothing. Sai asked in confusion. Yes, nothing. No beatings, no rapes, No violence of any kind and prevent others from doing the same. I also want him to have no allies, no friends, no one to even share a conversation with. Sasuke knows the hell of loneliness, but it's time for him to be reintroduced to it. As far as anyone is concerned, while in there Sasuke Uchiha doesn't exist. The only voices speaking to him should be the ones in his head. Let's see how strong he is. It will be done, Naruto-sama. He struggled against her grip. Oh, he knew if her intent was to kill him he'd be dead already, too fast for him to have truly put up a fight, but being strangled, even if it isn't enough to truly end him, was unpleasant. And while he was sure she wasn't trying to kill now, Tsunade is volatility personified and may change her mind at any moment. Explain. Stop choking me and I will, damn it. Jiraiya said and breathed in deeply like air was the most precious commodity in the world. I got a letter from one of her summons. Apparently, right before Sasuke's jutsu could do any true damage she was reversed summoned. When she demanded to know why, the elder informed her they could sense she was pregnant and felt said future child was theirs to protect. So, why didn't she come back here? Harem, you left for years because of your loss and you weren't the cause of it. This place, it haunts her. She can't be here, it's too much. What about Naruto? I assume he's the father. I don't know, if she doesn't get help it might be a moot point. And if you idiots hadn't rendered him comatose she wouldn't have been alone. No, she wouldn't have, but game that out. If Naruto gets involved it becomes a Team 7 affair. Naruto would have likely killed Kakashi if he'd gotten in the way, and depending on the state of Itachi, maybe Sakura as well. Who else would join in to avenge Kakashi and Sakura, even if they were in the wrong? Guy. Which brings along his team. Maybe the other rookies. Except Guy pulling off a completely suicidal attack, who could stand to Naruto now? One that's lost in heartbreak and rage. At full power I could for a time, but I was nowhere near that then. If Naruto was conscious, he was dangerous and I foresaw a bloodbath, except Madara and Obito wouldn't have been at the center of it. I'd rather he hate me than allow him to become a monster in a weak moment. Tsunade couldn't deny the logic of his scenario, but it felt like an excuse, a lot of conjecture on what could have happened. But now was not the time to dwell on the poor decisions of her idiot teammate and suicidal Uchiha. She had a patient that needed help. The Sannin made haste toward Itachi, but even still it took them 2 days to arrive. The small, single-story cabin was entirely unassuming, fitting for a missing nin. As they approached they were met by someone neither of them expected and immediately tensed for a fight. No need for that, I'm here at Itachi's behest. You know, Toad, Slug, Shark and Weasel. I swear there's a joke in here somewhere, said Kisame as he greeted the Sannin at his door. And if you make it I'll punch you so hard you'll see the curvature of the earth. Now, where is Itachi? She's in the back, Kisame answered as he moved out of Tsunade's way. She's a bit violent, ain't she? He asked when Tsunade was no longer within earshot. No, she's a lot violent and I'd suggest you not push it, Jiraiya said, subconsciously rubbing his neck. It's kinda my nature, though. I'm a button pusher, I push buttons. The youth always have to get lessons beat into their heads. Kisame could only shrug. Jiraiya wasn't exactly wrong. You look like there is something you want to say. Oh, picking up on that are we? You should just say it. You're an idiot. I'm okay with that. Go be an idiot. Until you involved my idiot in your idiocy. If by idiocy you mean, well, he was more than willing. Besides, we used preventive measures. You mean that seal of his? Sakura told me about it. Something must have happened, maybe the influx of the Kyuubi's chakra. Kurama. Whatever. But no, that wasn't the idiocy I meant. I meant you running off to die for no reason. Sasuke may never know peace, but he certainly wouldn't if I were alive, and no matter what he did, he deserved justice. I wronged him. Having done it on orders doesn't change that fact. If Naruto had not intervened this wouldn't even be an issue. So, our idiot involved me in his own idiocy, for the record. Ah, the seal. The seal is essentially the problem, Itachi. Yes, It healed you and extended your life and did so again when you faced Sasuke. The problem is the toll taken on your body. You're dying. How long? 7 years, 10 at most if you don't push yourself too hard. But the baby will be alright. Yes, and I'll be staying by your side to make sure, but your baby will be fine. I'll talk to Jiraiya, we can arrange transport for you. I'm not going back to the village. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. If stress is bad for me, what do you think the scene where I committed mass murder is going to do? What about Naruto? There are things in the works for Naruto. Our chapter is over, my returning would only complicate matters. Even if you don't have that long, you both deserve to take advantage of the time you do have, and he deserves to know about his child. And he will, when the time is right. But I won't live in that village, and it does more harm than good to have Naruto not there or working on Konoha's behalf. He can do that and not be there, Itachi. Yes, he can. Or he can not know and move on with someone and have an actual life with them. A lifelong partner that can support and love him. I can't do that, and if it is known that he's consorting with a missing nin, that's bad for him. He will eventually know of our child together, when I'm sure it was divert him from his dream of being Hokage. Then we'll have to release the truth about the Uchiha massacre. More than a few people know anyway. But not everyone, nor should they. Why are you fighting so hard to be away from him? 7 to 10 years. Will I be an invalid at some point? Would he be reduced to my nurse? Would you want to be remembered like that? So, vanity, dignity. I shouldn't even be alive, but I am, so I will do what I need to do, but I won't drag him down with me. What benefit is there of him knowing I'm alive? Yes, he will miss some time with his child, and if he never forgives me, I'd understand. But what else? I'm not the only person that cares for him. He'll have options, a woman that doesn't come with my baggage and can actually be a life partner for him instead of whatever I'd be. He can be happy. He will be happy. Haven't you learned your grand manipulations don't work? They will this time. Last time I had no one to ensure they wouldn't fail. That's not the case. And who is this person that's going to aid you in this plan? The one person who wanted me away from Naruto more than you did. His little heiress. Tsunade snorted, despite the seriousness of the conversation. Jiraiya told me you didn't much care for her. I have no strong opinions on her one way or another, except she genuinely cares for Naruto and will help him move on. Even if they don't ultimately end up together, she'll be of use. I assume she's grown a spine. Kitty has claws. You know, just because you say really jealous things with a monotone doesn't make them any less jealous. I am not jealous, Lady Tsunade. Sure. Well, we need to make arrangements. It seems I'll be out of the village for a while. Thank you. Don't. You're essentially carrying my grandchild. Even if Naruto is going to hate me when this all comes out, I wouldn't trust anyone with this but myself. I thank you all the same. By the way, would you like to know the gender? Hi. You're having a girl, Tsunade said before turning to leave as Itachi had the largest smile she'd ever made on her face. Walking out to get some air, Tsunade is instantly questioned by Kisame. Hey, super tits, how's, is as far as Kisame got before he was sent flying by Tsunade's right hook. You got something to say? She asked Jiraiya. I just want to know if she's alright. I can't get into specifics, but she and the baby are not in immediate danger. I'll be staying with her to make sure that continues to be the case. As she finished, Kisame returned. Damn, you pack a punch. That should encourage you to watch your mouth in the future. No, that's not my style. Just like your style isn't calm, reasonable discussions. You're ultra violent. I like that in a woman. I'm a high-functioning sociopath. A cynical man for a cynical world to boot. I won't promise you love. Don't know shit about it besides I've seen what it's done to Itachi and that shit is toxic, but I am loyal and durable and gifted in the right places. What do you say? Let's make this thing work. Kisame said, only to be greeted with another punch, flying in a similar trajectory. I have to admit, as far as confessions go, that wasn't awful. You always were the weird one, Tsunade. What? Tsunade said in shock, as there was no way she was weirder than Orochimaru.